Hello and welcome to the RMI Advantage video training series. Today we will discuss the General Ledger setup. You can use the General Ledger setup window to enter information about how you want to handle certain accounting issues in your company. For example, we can use the General Ledger setup window to specify invoice rounding details, the currency code for your local currency, address formats, and whether you want to use an additional reporting currency. Within Advantage, we'll go to Financial Management, and we'll move over to Setup. And then from Setup, I'm going to select General Ledger Setup. Now, I'll take a moment to go over each of the fields so that you have an understanding for what they do. We'll start here from the Allow Posting From field. Here you can enter the earliest date on which posting to the company is allowed. The Allowed Posting To date, right below it, is where you enter the last date on which posting to the company is allowed. So, for example, if I wanted to only allow posting for the month of June, I would come in here and select 06/01. When I tab off, it'll bring in my year. And I want to do it until the end of June, so I'm going to select 06/30. Now, any transactions posted to the general ledger with that posting date will be allowed to post. Anything outside of that range, if it's before 6/1 or after 6/30, will not be allowed to post. You'll have to push these posting dates out. The next field we're going to talk about is the Register Time field. If you place a check mark in this field, the system will start to capture the time that a user spends in a company. It's important to note that the time is rounded up. It can be rounded up as much as 30 seconds. The next area we're going to move down to is the local address format. Here you can specify the format in which you'd like your address to appear on the printouts. I'm going to go ahead and pull this down. And you can select any of these options. We have city, state, and zip code selected, but you can select city and zip code or any of the options that we have here. The local contact address format is where you specify where you want the contact name to appear in the mailing address. If I go ahead and select the drill down, right now we have after the company name is where we want our contact information to show up, but we can select it to show first or last if we'd like. If you select first, the program will print the contact name as the first line in the mailing address, and then it will be followed by the company name and then the street and the company address. If you select after the company name, the program will print the company name as the first line in the address, and then the contact name as the second line, and then it will be followed by the street and the rest of the address. If you select last, the program will print the contact name as the last line of the mailing address, after the company name, the street name, the region, and the zip code. The local ISO alphabetic code is where we would select our country code. When I drill into here, we have them all listed. The next field, the Invoice Rounding Precision field, is where you specify the size of the interval to be used when rounding amounts in your local currency. You can also specify the invoice rounding for each currency in the currency table. In the invoice rounding type is where we'd specify whether an invoice amount will be rounded up or it'll be rounded down. If I drill into here and show you the options, we have three here: nearest, up, and down. By selecting nearest, the program will round up digits that are greater than or equal to 5. Otherwise, the program will round down. If we select up, the program will round the amount up, and if we select down, then the program will round the amount down. We're going to select nearest. The next field is our Allow GL Account Deletion Before field. The date in this field determines if and when GL accounts can be deleted. If you enter a date in this field, GL accounts with entries on or after this date cannot be deleted. And in our next field, the check GL account usage, the check mark in this field indicates that you want the program to protect GL accounts that are used in setup tables from being deleted. If there is a check mark and you try to delete a GL account, the program will check if the account is used in any of the setup tables. In our next area here on the General tab, we're going to be dealing with multi-currency. Advantage can handle multi-currency, and within this area is where we can set up our local currency and the symbol that we'd like to show. Let's start up here at the top at the EMU currency. By placing a check mark in this field, you are saying that your local currency is an EMU currency. Underneath in our local currency code, we enter the currency code for the local currency. You can enter a maximum of 10 characters, both numbers and letters, and this code will appear on your invoices and reports that are in your local currency. In our next field, the local currency symbol, we would place in here the symbol of our local currency. In our case, it's the US dollar, but if you were dealing in euros or any other currency, you can enter that symbol here. And in our ISO alphabetic code, we could select the ISO code for our local currency. In our case, it's still the United States, so we selected USD. In our next area, the payment discount excluding tax field is where you specify whether the payment discount should be based on amounts including or excluding VAT. By placing a check mark in this field, the system decides what fields to use in order to calculate your payments discount. In our case, because there is a check mark, it's going to go ahead and use the amount field in the sales line table, or if you're entering the transaction in a journal, the program will use the sales or purchase field in the general journal line table. If you leave the field blank, so that payment discount is calculated on amounts including VAT, the program uses the amount including tax field in the sales line table. Or again, if you're entering the transaction in a journal, the system will use the amount field in the general journal line table. In our next field, adjust for payment discounts, by placing a check mark here, you want the program to recalculate tax amounts when you post payments that trigger a payment discount. By placing a check mark here, you simply trigger the field or enable the field in general. To have the field be active for taxes, you'll have to go to the tax setup and select the adjust for payment discount field there also. And in our next field, the unrealized tax, the system will decide how to handle unrealized VAT if you do place a check mark in this field. If you do not post unrealized VAT, then you do not need to place a check mark in here. The next area, prepayment unrealized tax field, is where you specify whether you want the program to handle unrealized VAT on prepayments. In our next field, the max tax difference allowed, this field is where you can enter the maximum VAT correction amount allowed for the local currency. For example, if you enter 5 in this field for the currency of British pounds, you may correct VAT amounts by up to £5. In our case, we're going to keep it 0. In our next area, the tax rounding type, this is where you select how the program will round VAT when calculated for the local currency. If I select the drill down, it'll bring down my options and I have nearest, up, and down. If I select nearest, the program will round up digits that are greater than or equal to 0.5. Otherwise, the program will round down. If I select the up option, the program will round the amount up. And if I select the down option, the program will round the amount down. In our next field, the Bill to or Sell to VAT calculation field is where we indicate the VAT business posting group code on an order an invoice is copied from. If I drill into here and select our options, we have two. We have the Bill to or Pay to number, or we have the Sell to or Buy from number. If I select the Bill to or Pay to number, the system will take the VAT business posting group on a sales invoice and order and copy it from the customer. If I select it on a purchase invoice, then it will copy the VAT business posting group from the vendor. If I select the Sell to or Buy to from number, the system will select the VAT business posting group code on a sales invoice and copy it from the Sell to customer. And on the purchase invoice, it will copy it from the Buy to vendor. We're going to select the Bill to or Pay to number, which is going to select it from our customer card for our sales invoice and from our vendor card for our purchase invoice. In our next field here, the Print Tax Specification in Dollars field, by placing a check mark in here, we are indicating that an extra VAT specification in local currency will be included on documents in a foreign currency. This can be used to make tax audits easier when reconciling VAT payables to invoices. And in our last field here on our General tab, we have our VAT in Use field. Check this field if the tax rather than sales tax is used for this company. From here, I want to go ahead and move on to my Numbering tab. In the Numbering tab is where we select our number series to generate on various documents. Starting with the bank account numbers, this is the number series that we want to select or generate through when we create a new bank account card. In our next field, the Bank Rec Adjustment Document Number is the number series that pulls through on our Adjustments tab of our bank account reconciliation. And down below, the Deposits Number is the number series that generates through when we create a new deposit. From here, we can go ahead and move on to our dimensions. I will not be covering dimensions in detail, but in this video, I will talk about where to set up the dimensions for the system, and that is from this tab. Above, we select our Global Dimension 1 code and our Global Dimension 2, and these are our dimensions that we use throughout the system. Underneath here, we can also specify 6 shortcut dimensions that we'd like. If you notice from here, my dimension code for Global 1 and 2 are grayed out. I cannot change them from this list. In order to change your global dimensions, you'll have to move down to your Functions button below and select Change Global Dimensions. From here, you have the ability to select the Global 1 dimension code and the Global 2 dimension code. And once you hit OK, the system will generate through and update the Global 1 and Global 2 dimensions on documents. This will not change anything that has been posted already. It will only change from here moving forward. I'm going to select Cancel, and we'll go ahead and move to our Reporting tab. On our Reporting tab, in our first field here, the Additional Reporting Currency is where you specify the currency that will be used as an additional reporting currency in the General Ledger application area. If you drill into this field, you will get the currency code table, and from here is where you can select and set up your currency. And in our Tax Exchange Rate Adjustments field, if you want to post an additional reporting currency, you must specify in this field how the account set up for the VAT posting in the VAT posting setup table will be adjusted for exchange rate fluctuations. And from here, we'll go ahead and move to our Applications tab. In our first field, the Application Rounding Precision is where you can specify the size of the interval that will be allowed as a rounding difference for the dollar amount when you apply entries to the dollar amount in a different currency. In our payment discount tolerance warning field, a check mark in this field will indicate that you want a warning to appear every time an application occurs between the dates specified in the payment discount date field and the payment discount tolerance date field in the general ledger setup. Our payment discount tolerance field contains the posting method which the program follows when posting a payment tolerance. If I drill into here, our options are payment tolerance accounts and payment discount account. If I was to select payment tolerance account, the program posts the payment discount tolerance to a special GL account set up for the payment tolerance. The payment discount account, if I select that option, the program will post the payment discount tolerance as a payment discount. Now the next field that we're going to move on to is the payment discount grace period. In this field, you can enter a number of days that a payment or refund can pass the payment discount due date and still receive the payment discount. And right underneath, we have the payment tolerance warning field. By placing a check mark in this field, you want the system to present you with a warning every time an application has a balance amount within this max tolerance, this max payment tolerance field here. In our next field, the payment tolerance posting field, this contains the posting method which the program follows when posting a payment tolerance. And if I drill into here, I get a couple of options. My first one is the payment tolerance account. The program posts the payment tolerance to a special GL account set up for the payment tolerance. And if I select payment discount amount, the program posts the payment tolerance as a payment discount. In our next field, the payment tolerance percentage, this field contains the percentage that the payment or the refund is allowed to be less than the amount on the invoice or credit memo. And in our last field here, our max payment tolerance amount, this field contains the maximum amount allowed that the payment or refund can differ from the amount on the invoice or credit memo. To set up payment tolerances within the system, you would go down here to your Functions button and select Change Payment Tolerance. From here, you can select your currencies and your percentages so that you can change them. Once you hit OK, the system will generate through and update your fields. And the last tab here in the General Ledger Setup is our CCH tax. This is where the CCH tax setups are housed, and CCH provides you with the tax tables and tax updates. By placing a check mark in the Use CCH tax, the system will use the CCH tax tables and tax information within the system. You also have the ability to drill in and select specific tax accounts for your transactions. This concludes the video on General Ledger Setup. Please be sure to watch all videos in the RMI Advantage video training series to make your job easier. Thank you and have a great day.